Hi there, my name is Yasmin Robles, and today I am going to be speaking to you about wireframes and what the heck a wireframe is, why it's important for your website, how to utilize it after you've received one or after you created one, and just the quick ins and outs of wireframes and how cool they are. Before we dive in though, my name again is Yasmin Robles with Robles Designs, where we create drill-worthy websites and brands for entrepreneurs hell-bent on taking over the world. We do this not just by creating pretty sites, but we also put a little bit of thought process into a site. We build sites with strategy and a thought process. We look at your analytics of your current site, we look at heat maps, we look at all these things, and we make really data-driven decisions for your website. But enough about us, let's dive into wireframes and why you should really look into getting one done or do it yourself. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions at all. So what exactly is a wireframe? A wireframe is basically like a sketch of the page that you are designing. It can be pen on paper, pencil. It can be on fancy Adobe XD. It can be a high fidelity wireframe or a low fidelity wireframe. And the only difference between that is that one is more of chicken scratch and sketched out than the other one. The other one is like really nice and mocked up. As a designer, I like making wireframes in order to really understand the flow of the page and to understand the pattern that the user will take and the content that we need in order to fill this page in and gain access to the ultimate goal for the user, whatever it may be for the business. So that is how we utilize a wireframe. And usually they do start out as chicken scratch on whatever scrap paper I can find. I sketch something out real quick, and then myself or my designer will go in and start creating it into Adobe XD. From there, we then start filling it in with more fancy things, because in the beginning it just really looks like squares, like a bunch of squares and buttons that have no styling at all. And so then we go in and fill it in with your imagery from your brand photography or stock images. Your copy, we fill it in with your colors from your color scheme and really start refining it. So that is how we utilize it as a business owner. The reason you want your designer to show you the wireframes, especially in the beginning, is because you want to see what kind of content will be going. You want to really understand the content and how it flows when they're creating the site. And you want to see how they explain the reasoning behind the way they are making it flow. So that's a reason why you would want to see the wireframe created by your designer, not just a pretty mock-up, but really from the beginning. The reason you might want to create yours, potentially you're DIYing your website, and if you are, make sure to check out the link below for our waitlist for our course. But if you are DIYing your site, you'll want to really understand what it is that the page will have and just get it out of your brain. And even if it's just, again, on scrap paper, just getting it out of there, putting it on paper, seeing how it flows on there, and then making other sketches based on that, what changes you can make, and then taking that and putting it onto a platform is going to be so much faster than just playing around with the platform and picking a template because, hey, that's what you got and you didn't want to necessarily dive in deeper. So that's why a wireframe would be ideal for you to create on your own. It's also great if you create a wireframe and you provide it to your designer, because it'll help them understand the goals that you have for this page, the type of content that you want to go on this page, as well as, let's say you have 20 testimonials and you have picked out the top 3 and you only want to showcase 3 on this particular service page. Then this just helps the designer understand the goals for that particular section. So that is the reason that you would want to be involved in the wireframe making process. And now I'm going to dive into showing you how to create it on your own. Really easy to create. So you may need to know a little bit of strategy, but if you have some sample sites that you're looking at for your website, this is going to be pretty cool. So gather your materials, and this can be, if you do have Adobe XD for some reason, you can open up Adobe XD. You can, my favorite is finding whatever scrap paper I have in the house and grabbing my pen and start just basically creating a rectangle and boxes and just positioning things, seeing where images will go. Usually if it's an image, I will put an X over the rectangle just so that I visually understand this is going to be an image, or there's going to be an image background. For headlines, I just make a big squiggle. For tiny headlines or tiny text, like body text, I will just do random little lines underneath, like straight lines. Buttons will be smaller rectangles. Sometimes if I'm feeling a little fancy, I will take a highlighter and I will highlight specific locations on the page for just as a reminder of something. So for example, if I know that certain locations will have dynamic features, then I will highlight those just for my reference. So again, you just gather your paper or your pencil, maybe some highlighters if you want, a marker, whatever, chalk, whatever it is that you want to use to create these wireframes. Sorry to interrupt real quick. Make sure to go to roblessdesigns.com/checklist. That is the place where you can download a PDF that will help you set the right foundation for your website, whether you are redesigning it or you are brand new, or you just want to, you're like a little chismosa and you like want to know, like, ooh, a freebie, let me go download it. Go download it. Then take your website and look through it, make sure you have the right foundation set up. It's basically, you just check off, that's why it's called a checklist. You check off everything that your site has, and then and you can do a little excited dance. Go down there at roblessdesigns.com/checklist and download the freebie. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. You're then going to go to your sitemap, and you're going to select, and then I'll link to the sitemap video somewhere around here, but you'll want to go to your sitemap and pick your number one level pages. So watch that video, see what the number one level is, but basically your most important pages, and then pick the ones that are the most important from that. So if, let's say if you have a very small site, like a commercial cleaning site, it's just a home page, about page, service page, and contact, you're probably just going to do the home page and maybe the service page. If you have a lot more pages going on, pick the ones that are the top level, the number ones, the very most important pages, and you're going to create wireframes for that. And again, this is all just sketched out, and I want you to be quick. So let's say you're doing the homepage for this commercial cleaning company. You're going to take your scrap paper, you're going to take your pen or pencil, and don't worry about erasing because you won't erase. You're going to go in there, take all the scrap paper you can, and start sketching out the design, the layout for the page. And then scrap that and then sketch it out again. What would you change from the first one? Did you want to put the testimonials up higher? Sketch that out. Did you want to put more buttons in because you feel like there's not enough call to action buttons? Put those in. Then create a third one and a fourth one and a fifth one. I would say I've been doing this for many years, and depending on the site and depending on the goals, depending on the client, I can do anything from about 5 different, if it's a lightweight project, about 5 different wireframes sketched out. 5 different sketched out wireframes for a page, up to like 20. And it just really depends on the type of changes you want to see and how you want it laid out. You don't have to go any further than that. That is enough for you to go onto a platform. There's also a video that I have that I'll try to link to, if I remember, that I'll try to link to about platforms, or you can go hunt it down on my channel. But let's say you are on Squarespace and you have created your wireframe. Now you can go back to Squarespace. You can create the page and start putting in really quickly all of the elements, even if it's just filler text and filler images. You can start putting in all of the elements to start creating your page, because you just have a map already. You don't necessarily have to think about it while you're creating it and trying to learn the platform at the same time, trying to figure out how to upload an image, trying to figure all of that out. while creating a layout. So you've already created your layout. All you have to figure out is like the basics of how to use Squarespace. Same thing with WordPress, Shopify, all that stuff. So that is basically how you would create a wireframe. Again, you can go really in depth if you have, for some reason, like Adobe XD, which is what we use, or Figma, which is some other designers, what they use. Don't use Photoshop or Illustrator or InDesign. Those are not meant for that. But Adobe XD, if you have that, you can start filling in, making it look neater. But for your purposes, if you are DIYing it, you don't necessarily need to do that. If you have a designer, you can show them your sketches and just walk through and say, this is the top section, this is the middle section, this is where I want the testimonials to go, this is where I want the buttons to go. And then that will help them then really work on your site. Now, as a caveat, if you were to bring me your sketches, I would still give feedback. As a designer, I would always ask, can I see, like, let's say we were designing your site. I would say, can I take a look at your analytics? And you said you wanted to get rid of the about page. Let's look at the analytics and see if people are visiting. And if you are getting lots of visitors, I would be like, you know what? Let's keep that about page. Or, for example, if you're redesigning your home page and you have events going on and you want to get rid of the events button on the home page, you just want to keep it up in the navigation, but we then go look at your heat map and I'm like, you know what, everybody is clicking on this one button to events. Do you really want to get rid of that button or put it down lower on the page? So this is what a good designer is, that's what they would ask. But you can always take your wireframe to your designer. It helps so much when somebody brings me, they're like, I'm so sorry, it's chicken scratch, and I'm like, it's perfect, it's beautiful. Let's look at it, and it's very helpful for me as a designer to really understand what you're looking for on a website. So never be afraid to do the wireframe, talk to your designer about it. They should be excited that you are that interested in your own site. But yeah, that's basically a wireframe. It's really, really helpful when building out a website. I highly recommend creating it if you're DIYing it, or creating one even if you're working with a designer, just so that you can communicate a little better. Let me know if you have any questions, put them in the comments below. Find me on Instagram at Robles Design Studios, where I try to make a complete fool of myself, or I hopefully make you laugh, at Robles Design Studios for that. With that, I will let you go, and I will catch you in the next video.